Well, hello, this is Lance. Today we're having a look at this. This is a UGreen KVM switch, 4 in, 1 out, and it's meant to be able to do 8K 60 on these HDMI ports, which I have noticed there's nowhere that it actually says here that it's HDMI 2.1, but generally to get 8K 60 on an HDMI, it would have to be HDMI 2.1 or some variation of that. So we're going to do some not so scientific testing with plugging it into various devices and switching them and see exactly what the capabilities of this device are.
First of all, unboxing. There we go. For those that don't know, a KVM switch is basically a switch that you can plug in one keyboard, one mouse, and a couple of other peripherals, as long as they're USB, and you can reroute those to a number of different machines, including one screen. Let's see what we have here. Okay, we have a switching unit. It's just basically a remote control that I can sit and switch between the different. And then we have USB cables, USB A to C, micro USB, and various USB cables to go to your different machines. And then underneath here, I would imagine, are all our HDMI cables. So you get a full set of 4 HDMI cables, and your books and manuals, etc. How to. And then, of course, the actual switch itself. Which will just destroy the covering, no problem here. And you see on the one side, you've got that weird USB, micro USB cable connector. That's for your remote. And then you have 3 USB A's, 3.2, and 1 USB-C 3.2. And then at the back, of course, you've got your in port for your 4 different devices, both the HDMI and a USB-C. I'm glad to see that there's USB-C on this. And then the obviously the 1 out. And then, of course, your power. On top, we've got some switches here, so you can manually switch between. When you're not using your little remote control, you can manually switch between them, so that's quite nice. I guess let's set this thing up and see if it's any good. Okay, so first of all, we are going to have a look at where I've actually got it placed right now. Now, because of my unique sort of situation here, I've actually stuck it against the wall. I can hear everybody going, "Whoa, why would you do that? Why don't you just put it on the table?" Well, the reason I did that is because, unlike a lot of people that have their PCs next to their tables or on their tables, I have mine in the next room. So the cables you see coming through the conduit over there are actually coming from my PC and various other things. That is the shortest route to get a decent power cable. I'm actually using one of the cables provided by UGreen, and it's only a little 3-meter cable, so it has to be there, that close, so that I can actually get it through to my PC on the other side of this wall. Normally you wouldn't do that, obviously. So for now, I've got my PC connected up to this and my Mac. I did some testing with this monitor over here. The problem with this monitor over here is that it's 4K and it's 240 Hertz. So that is a lot of bandwidth, and it's HDR because it's OLED. So that's a lot of bandwidth for something like a HDMI cable to put through, to output. So I plugged it into that and my game PC, as well as this ultra wide here. And I think the limitation actually came in with my PC. I only have a 4090 connected to that PC, and I don't think it has enough bandwidth to do that big widescreen as well as the 4K high refresh rate. So I disconnected it from that
and I actually don't have the game PC plugged into it. What I do instead is I have the game PC plugged directly into the ultra-wide, and for the port going into the HDMI, I actually have my Apple TV connected. So when I'm actually gaming, it becomes my gaming monitor, and that PC is now my Apple TV, so that I can browse and watch whatever I want while doing that. And that seems to work quite well. The Apple TV, obviously, the maximum you can get through from that is 4K 60 with HDR, which runs fine. There's no hiccups or break in the signal. And then, of course, for my Mac, which is what's running at the moment, I have that screen going into, well, I have the HDMI output, which is a 2.1 from my Mac Studio, going to the UGreen switch. And then the UGreen switch is obviously plugged into that. So for the Mac, that is being used as it should be. And it seems to be running at the full bandwidth. As you can see over here, I'm getting 240 Hertz on that monitor at 4K, and I'm running HDR. So that's pretty good for what we're actually getting here. So that is basically the full capabilities of that monitor. To me, that says that the UGreen switch can actually handle that type of bandwidth, which leads me to think that my particular problem is on the graphics card not being able to run both of these monitors simultaneously. I think what we should do is I'm actually going to disconnect this ultra-wide from my PC. I'm going to just connect the PC to that monitor alone and see that it just runs properly without cutting out, which is the problem I had before. Okay, I've disconnected the wide screen from my graphics card at the back, and I've plugged in just the HDMI going to this monitor here. And as you can see, it's busy booting up. I have already switched. I'm using this little remote that it comes with to actually do the switching. So I've already switched to the PC preset so that my keyboard and mouse and everything works. Okay, we're running full 4K, we're running HDR, as you can see over there, and we're running a full 240 Hertz. And it does not seem to be cutting out at all. By now, it would have started switching off and on. So that just tells me that that's not the switch's problem. I'm going to run a Cyberpunk 2077 benchmark. As you can see, I'm running a full 4K HDR, all the bells and whistles, including DLSS, obviously, because it is still fairly intense.
Let me drift away. And I just wanted you to know one thing, that I would never ever let you in. If we go down this road, don't ever say I didn't warn you.
And there you go. No stuttering and no breakups. Okay, for our next test, we're going to test as if it was for a streamer. Be you be a Twitch streamer or a YouTube streamer, maybe you want to switch between multiple devices like a gaming PC and then over to a PlayStation 5 and then over to maybe a Switch 2. You can use one screen, one capture card, more importantly, and just switch between them. So that's what we're going to test now. Will it work? Okay, for this test, what I've done is I have it set up with my PC and my Mac plugged into this with their various USB sources so that I can use the same keyboard and mouse. And instead of plugging it directly into the screen, what I've done is set it up as if it was going to be used by a streamer of some description, game streamer who wants to do some high-end streaming, and I've plugged it into a capture card. So I've got the input going into the capture card and then the output of the capture card going to that same screen. Now, I can only get 120 Hertz doing it this way, but that is a limitation of the capture card itself. It is an HDMI 2.1 capture card, but in 4K with HDR, it will only go up to 120 Hertz, as you can see there. And you can see that the capture card is throughputing 4K at 120 Hertz and running fine. But if I move my mouse over there, you can actually see all's good. So that seems to work fine. So now I'm going to crank up my PC and switch over using the KVM and see if everything works well that side as well. Okay, so we're just busy booting up the PC. And there it is there. I think I probably need to set this to 120. Yes, it's actually automatically set itself to 120 Hertz over there. But we're running 4K, no problem. And as you can see on OBS, it's coming through at 4K 120 Hertz, no problem as well. What to say about the UGreen KVM HDMI 4-in, 1-out KVM switch? It seems to work in every sort of scenario that I tested. Obviously with the limitations of the other equipment, like my graphics card not being able to drive two very high-res screens at the same time. But the switch itself seems to work fantastically, as well as our last test showed, the ability to actually use it for things like live streaming. Again, for a streaming scenario, if somebody wants to put in a PC, maybe a PlayStation 5, a Switch 2, etc., etc., you can put them all into one screen. Okay, so the UGreen switch will rush you just short of €100. For what it does, I did notice one thing. Let me get to that first. They don't say anywhere on this that it's HDMI 2.1. I don't know if it's because it's not compliant with certain standards in HDMI 2.1. All they state is that it can go up to 8K 60 Hertz, which you would need an HDMI 2.1 port to do that. You could go to 8K 30 Hertz with a standard HDMI 2.0. For €100, it's not a cheap device. I hope you enjoyed this not so scientific test, the UGreen KVM switch, HDMI KVM switch. If you did, please like, subscribe, all those lovely YouTuber things. I'll obviously put in links down below for the UGreen KVM switch. They are affiliate links, so if you do use them, thank you very much. They do support the channel, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye now.